Yes.
Good morning, Mal.
Good morning.
I just want to pick up from where the lady touched on that you have a millennium which is mainly rural. My experience and my challenge is that the millennium that is more in the urban area have so many challenges. Even as a leader in my organization, I find that most of the time I spend a lot of time in counseling, you know, the millennium, even before you start going, you know, into work issues, because you have a millennium which even from the age of between 18, I would say, and 25, you know, if they're not heading up their families, they're, you know, HIV positive and such, you know, how do we as more medium and small organizations integrate, you know, and be able to really lead, you know, and motivate them from that perspective on a social level? Because when I worked for a bigger organization, we had employee wellness programs, which, like iCares, which you could see a professional, but we as small organizations, we cannot afford, you know, to engage and have psychologists.
I think there's two things I'd say there very quickly. One is, in the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to see we're going to see a lot of pressure on businesses to offer at least basic level mental health care for their workers. Now, big corporations will do this by employing their own psychologists. But smaller companies, and it's starting to happen in some parts of the world now, will form collectives which will employ someone, even part-time, who can offer basic skills like cognitive behavioral therapy, just to help workers to deal with the stress of life. By the way, the old line work-life balance no longer applies because it's morphing now. The digital technology has morphed work and life. 60% of Australian CEOs cannot switch off after work. 60% of Americans who use email read their emails in bed at midnight. We're having trouble switching off. 40% of children in the UK who have a smartphone are sleep deprived for the same reason. We find it hard to switch off. We're always on, 24/7 on digital tech. So dealing with what we used to call work-life balance issues, we have to change the way we deal with it now because it's all bleeding into one. We've got to help people deal with the whole of life, even in the workplace. As you say, you're right. So we will find more and more small companies forming collectives that have a mental health element. It might be 5 companies, it might be 10 companies banding together, maybe in a business park, or if not geographically close, then in terms of values they're close. And they're bonding to employ somebody, even on a part-time basis, to come in and teach their people cognitive behavioral therapies and other techniques. And I think one of the things you can all do to help millennials and others deal with these pressures is just from time to time to bring the right people in to speak to them. It doesn't have to be a 3-day seminar or conference. It can just be a 1-hour session with somebody in your staff meeting. And you know, so-and-so is going to talk to us today about skills for problem solving. Because these things, believe it or not, are not taught in school. They're not taught well in school. And they're not taught well in university. And so you, the business leader, often get loaded with the fallout from that. So be proactive about it. Bring people in to teach, even in small increments. Look at the possibility of forming a collective with someone else to help you bring expertise in to deal with those things.